In a game like craps, though, it ends up being a little different. Okay. In craps, not all the bets resolve immediately. Okay. The calculation's the same, but the outcome might be a little bit less obvious to some of you. Okay. Here it is. In craps, we'll look at a place bet on the 4, for example. Okay. The place bet on the 4 sits there, roll after roll after roll. It only resolves itself when the 4 hits or the 7 hits. Either you lose the bet when a 7 comes or you win the bet when a 4 comes. That's it. The other numbers don't matter. Let's talk about odds, the odds of winning and the odds of losing. It's session 3 of Gambling 301. This is going to be a talk about and a part of a series here on the math of gambling. And I don't want to get too mathy. I don't want to get too hardcore with you. I want to give you just enough math to help you make the right calculations, but really give you the math to help you think through what you're seeing at the tables and what you're doing with your money. So reminder, the house always wins, right? That house always wins. And the odds will speak to some of that. Okay. What are odds? It's simple. It's the ratio of favorable to unfavorable outcomes. That's it. Okay. We're going to take a look at what it takes to win versus what it takes to lose. And it's a little calculation based on that. And unlike probability, which is just the likelihood that you roll a heads or a tails, odds speak to the likelihood that you're going to win the bet that you place. Okay. And the calculation, again, is simple. It's the total number of winning outcomes divided by the total number of winning and losing outcomes combined. Okay. If that calculation ends up at 0, you're never going to win. If it ends up at a 1 or 100, you're always going to win, right? That'll never happen, by the way, but here's how it looks. Okay. In a single resolution bet. And what I mean by that is something like roulette, where every spin of that ball results in an outcome. Every bet on the table either wins or loses. So it's a single outcome, single resolution thing. In craps, that might be considered a hop bet when you bet like just the horn or something like that. But let's look at roulette. Okay. On a dozens bet, you've got 12 ways to win the bet, right? You're betting a dozen numbers. There's 26 ways to lose the bet. There's the other 2 dozens and the 0 double 0. So there's 12 ways to win, 26 ways to lose, 38 ways total. Okay. The probability of that is 12 divided by 38 or 31.5%. The odds in this case happen to be the same. Okay. With the odds of winning a bet on a roulette table, dozens as the example here, it's 12, the number of ways to win, divided by the number of total ways you can lose. In roulette, anything that's not a win is an automatic loss. So that calculation is the same. In a game like craps, though, it ends up being a little different. Okay. In craps, not all the bets resolve immediately. Okay. The calculation's the same, but the outcome might be a little bit less obvious to some of you. Okay. Here it is. In craps, we'll look at a place bet on the 4, for example. Okay. The place bet on the 4 sits there, roll after roll after roll. It only resolves itself when the 4 hits or the 7 hits. Either you lose the bet when a 7 comes or you win the bet when a 4 comes. That's it. The other numbers don't matter. So it could sit there for 40 rolls and nothing happens to that bet. How we calculate that looks like this. There are 3 ways to win that bet. On a 4, you can roll it with a 1 and a 3 on the dice. You can reverse that 3 and a 1 or a 2-2. There's 3 ways to roll a 4. That's it. Okay. The 7 can roll 6 ways. A 1-6 or a 6-1, right? The 2-5-5-2, the 4-3-3-4. There's 6 ways to roll a 7. 6 ways to lose the bet, 3 ways to win the bet. The probability of a 4 rolling, by the way, is 3 out of 36. On the next roll of the dice, there's an 8% chance or so that a 4 rolls. But that's not talking to you about how much or how likely you are to win the bet. The odds of winning that bet are calculated this way. It's 3, which is the number of ways you can roll a 4, divided by the number of ways you can roll a 4 or a 7. So 3 divided by, in this case, 9, or 33%. Okay. The odds of winning that bet are 33%. It's 3 out of 9. That's how we calculate that. Again, it's the number of total outcomes that affect you, that can win you or lose you money. And you divide that by the number of outcomes that you want to see. That's how we calculate it in roulette and in craps. I think this actually makes good sense. There's a kind of a classic way to look at this, which is marbles in a bag. I'm going to go to my table real quick with you, and I want to put some chips in a bag and show you how this works. Because this is one of those things that's not always well understood. Let's go take a look at a close-up view of this. Let's look at just the 10 to make it easy, okay? I have some whites and blacks here. Let's give the whites three ways to win that 10, right? There's the 6-4, the 4-6, and the 5-5. You can roll the dice. That's 3 ways to roll a 10. There are 6 ways, though, on the don't pass, to lose. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 ways to roll a 7, right? 6 ways to lose, 3 ways to win. Everything else doesn't matter. They're all what we call non-events. Nobody cares about them. But the number of total events is 9. 3 ways to get it done, 6 ways to get beat. And the way that you look at probabilities is this. You put those all into a bag. I'll just drop all these lammers here into a bag. Again, everything else doesn't matter, right? We can ignore every roll of the dice. That's not one of these. But if you just reach into the bag right here, let's grab a random thing. This is like rolling the dice. I got a black, so we lose, okay? Put it back in the bag again, shake them up, come back in here. And again, there's a how many chance to win or lose here, right? Let's take a look at the chips. Hey, we got a win that time. Look at them again. There are 6 ways to lose. There are 3 ways to win. If you reduce that down, by the way, fractionally, it's actually going to be 2 to 1. Okay, 6 to 3 is the same as 2 to 1. If you look at it this way, this is a good visual on why it's a 33% chance to win that bet, right? Even though you are a 2 to 1 underdog, probability speaking, from an odds of winning standpoint, there are only 3 things that can happen. You can lose, or you can win. That's it. Out of 3 things that can happen to you, only one of them is good. That's where the 33% odds of winning comes from. So when you put those 3 outcomes in the bag, it's the same thing as when I had 9 in the bag. I could have 900 and 300 in the bag. Doesn't change the ratio. It's still reach into the bag and dink it around and get a loser, right? That's the way that odds work, okay? It's your total number of things that can happen to you in the bag, and it's the chances of you pulling out the 1 or 2 or 3 that matters. If it's going to be the 6 or the 8, same calculation, right? 6 or 8, there's 5 ways to roll these guys, right? Again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 ways to lose it versus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ways to win it. For the 6 or 8, it's 5 out of 11 odds. That's how we calculate it for those. So again, all of those go into the bag. And again, that's the only thing you care about is the things in the bag that matter to you. Either I lose on a black or I win on a white, and that's it. The 6 or the 8 give you closer to 50-50, okay? In this case, we lost, but whatever. You take a look at that, it's not quite 50-50. It's 6 to 5. 6 ways to lose, 5 ways to win. 6 to 5 probability of, or that's your odds against. But your odds of winning are 5 out of 11. That's 45% chance, by the way. And that's how you look at it with the marbles or chips in a bag. Think about the ways you can win, the ways you can lose, and those are the only ones that matter. The rest of the ones that are non-events we don't really care about. Right. This is from Omni Calculator. This is a great one. And this really, I think, is a good visual to what I showed you with the marbles in the bag. And of course, they actually, if you read through this whole page, they will explain that to you, how that all works. But if you just put into here, the chances for success, let's do craps. Let's do the 4, or I'm sorry, the 5. The 5. There are 4 ways to roll a 5. Okay. There are 6 ways to roll a 6, which means you've got a 40% chance of winning. You're a 6 to 4 underdog. Okay. The odds bet pays 3 to 2 because you're a 6 to 4 dog, but you actually only have a 40% chance of winning, which is interesting, right? You've been told your whole life that you're a 3 to 2 disadvantage on the 4 or the 5 or the 9, but you're actually got a 40% chance of beating that 6 or beating that 7. It's interesting when you look, it's lower than you think it is when you look at it this way. This also, by the way, gives you the money line. The money line of betting the 5 is actually a 150 plus 150, which is interesting too. You look at the across bets. Let's take a look at the across bet, right? The across bet in craps, we know there's 24 ways to win an across bet. Okay. You're a 4-1 favorite, 80% chance of winning that bet. 20% chance still to lose the bet. The inside numbers, again, you're 18 against 6, the 75, you're a 3-1 favorite. Okay. 3-1 favorite, 75% chance of winning the bet, of having one of those bets resolve for you before the 7. I think this is what's important. One of these hitting before one of those, that's all in the bag. Pulling out a white chip versus a black chip, you have a 75% chance of doing that. Okay. Even though you're a 3-1 favorite, you're a 75% chance to win. The house, being a 1-3 underdog, is a 25% chance of losing. So there's that. That is a look at the eye. And again, I'll put this link in the description for you because it's a great calculator to run through and check through odds of anything you're looking at. So that's all well and good for simple games like craps and roulette. And I say simple, but like the number of outcomes is very limited in scope. Games like blackjack and baccarat, like we said, baccarat, there's quadrillions of possible ways for the banker to win or lose. Right? There's 2.5 quadrillion ways a banker can win, and 2.5 quadrillion ways a player could win, or something like that. It's insane how you can never calculate it all. Why? Because there's between 1 and 8 decks, and at any point in time, you're 1, 2, 3, 4, or 177 cards into a shoe, and what cards came out of the shoe change every shoe, right? So all the ways you could resolve a bet, not just for you in blackjack to get the hand you want, but all the ways that you could win against all the ways a dealer could lose, and vice versa. That's how odds are calculated for these games. Again, that's why you have the blackjack strategy card. It handles all that stuff for you. And that's why baccarat boils down to always bet player, always bet banker, or follow the shoe. Like that's kind of what these games resolve down to because of the infinite number of odds. And again, you don't have to worry about it, but know that it's a thing. And if you're interested in looking at it, it's great. There's actually some websites out there that Michael Shackelford, I'll show you his in a minute here, that have put together to show you kind of how the odds and the probabilities change based on shoe thickness in some of these games. And there's also a really good calculator that'll show you just how to calculate odds and how to see odds through those different lenses in general. So let me switch over to my browser real quick, and I'll show you a couple of these really cool resources. So because I mentioned it last, we'll go to Baccarat first. And I'm at the Wizard of Odds website, and he's got, again, Michael Shackelford runs the site. He's a mathematician. He's got great information up here, probably too much information. But if you go to like odds and strategies and we hit over to Baccarat, you can end up here. And this is the Baccarat calculator, which is really cool. You can take this thing and say, look, for an 8-deck shoe, for example, an 8-deck, fresh 8-deck shoe. Here's the card counts, by the way, for an 8-deck shoe. You calculate what's going on. Here it is. There's 2.2 quadrillion ways the banker can win, 2.3 quadrillion ways the player can win. Okay. The banker's got a higher probability to win. That's why math guys will tell you just bet banker all the time. Okay. That's the reason why, because the combinations are in their favor. Now, if you come through here and change it though, right? Let's say that you got, I don't know, let's say we knocked out 65. We're down to 65 face cards left, and there's only 5 aces left, and there's 12 twos and I don't know, 21 of those and 25 of these and 14 of them and 5 of these and 3 of those, and we'll just make it up, 15 and 12. Okay, this is what's happened. We've dealt through most of the shoe. Here's what's left in the shoe, calculate it out, and you'll see the number of combinations goes down quite a bit, and the probability has compressed a little bit. See this here? Because we changed the card count, the probability of player to banker has compressed to where it's almost 50-50. Okay. So there is the chance for you to count cards in Baccarat and gain, I don't want to call it an advantage, but get a shift in the odds from what they were by default to what they could potentially be based on shoe thickness. So here is the card counting in Baccarat page that kind of dovetails with that shoe thickness page. It's interesting. He talks about the effect of removing a card and how that changes and again, there's a lot in here, right? But he gives you a little method of keeping a running count and looking at the expected probabilities in the EV, how it changes based on running count, with a couple of strategies that you can use to kind of change from player to banker and vice versa based on the running count. And there is counts that favor the player over the banker because of the rules of how the player has to draw that third card. So anyway, it's a good read if you're interested in it. And looking at blackjack, Michael's got another page here on blackjack where he really has this hand calculator thing where again, it takes into account all of it, right? The shoe composition, how many of each number are left in the shoe, right? The rules of the game. And then you pick, the dealer's up card and your two cards, and it will calculate for you the probabilities and the odds of winning a particular hand. That's right over here. You can see how this thing works out. And again, based on shoe thickness, this is card counting. Based on shoe thickness, there might be things you can do that might diverge from basic strategy. Anyway, that's on the Shackleford website. Just like with probabilities, to calculate multiple odds. So the odds of winning something a second time in a row, right? In other words, rolling 2 6s before a 7 or hitting a dozen twice. Like the probabilities, the odds grow exponentially. So if we know that, for example, 5 out of 11, 5 divided by 11 is the odds of hitting a 6 in craps before the 7 rolls. You square that. 5 out of 11 times 5 out of 11 is the odds to beat the 7 with a 6 twice. Cube it to do it 3 times and so forth. And by the way, a miracle roll to get 5 6s before a 7 is a 1.9% odds. That's it. 1.9% is the odds of that. And again, you calculate that with a simple calculator. You say, what is that cubed? And we can roll through it. And here's the funny thing about this, right? There are 5 ways to roll a 6. There are 6 ways to roll a 7, right? To actually see all 5 of those ways to win before you get that 7 is only a 1.9% chance. It's interesting. You got to know these things. You got to know, like, it seems like that's what ought to happen. I can roll 5 6s, but boy, is it hard when you compound those odds to beat that. So again, the calculation on that is pretty simple. Let's pull the calculator out and show you. So looking at that 6, again, the chance to win a 6 is 5 divided by 11. Okay. It's a 0.45, 45% chance to win the 6. Now to see a 6, that's to see a 6 before a 7 in craps. So if I do 0.45 squared, it's a 20% chance to see 2 6s before a 7. If I do 0.45 cubed, it's a 9% chance to see 3 6s before a 7. If I do 0.45, and I'll raise that to the 4th power, there's your 4% chance now to see 4 6s before the 7. Okay. And that also works for multiple sequences of bets too. For example, let's say you're going to do the across bet. Let's say you have a strategy that has 2 across bets that have to win. Okay. That's 24 divided by 30. Okay. That's your 80% chance to win. Okay. If I want to see a strategy where I go across in craps, 80% chance to win twice before a 7, it's 0.08 or 0.8 times 0.8. Right. 64% chance that I can win the across bet twice before a 7. It's still pretty good. I'm still a favorite there to get that done. Let's say that after I get 2 across bets, I transition and I go to an inside bet, which we know is a 75% chance to win, right? So I got to multiply that by 0.75, and that 48% chance. I multiply that by 0.75 to get 2 across hits and then 2 inside hits 4 times, 4 wins before a 7. It's a 36% chance of making it happen, which means there's a 64% chance that we lose. So calculating the odds of winning, again, always take into account the number of times that you can win divided by the number of times you can win or lose. And to do multiple in series, you start getting exponential with it. And that's how you do the math there. So there's a look at that quick calculation. And as I just mentioned, I think I can't understate this enough, right? The inverse of all this is true, right? You have a 43% chance to win a bet, 57% chance to lose that bet. Even on the across bet, right, where I've got 80% chance to win, that's a great hammer to have. There's still a 20% chance that you lose it all, right? 80% chance to win a tiny amount of money and a 20% chance to get hammered and lose the whole thing. Remember that. We always look at what it takes to get where you want to get to. It's nice to look at the positive side of things, but we tend to poo poo the other side of that. You can't do that. Don't make the mistake of forgetting that the opposite of your odds to win is what it's going to look like for you to lose. Let me leave you with this final visual and this final thought. Don't forget about the outcomes in the bag. Okay. Remember, what goes into the bag are the ways you can win, the number of ways you can win. In our case, it was those whites, right? What goes in the bag is the number of ways you can lose. In our case, those blacks. Okay. In our example, we had 3 ways to win, 6 ways to lose, 9 things in the bag, right? You are a 2-to-1 underdog. The ratio is 2-to-1. The probability of winning, the odds of winning, 33%. It's 3 out of 9. Remember that. This is the thing that I know confuses people, but you got to remember that calculation. It's going to really help you out when you're putting bets together and thinking about what are my likelihood that I'm going to win on the next, not necessarily pull, but the next spin or the next roll. Knowledge is power. Go out there armed with information. It'll help you avoid some danger, I hope. It'll also help you maybe attack when the timing is right. So again, look at those links in the description for Michael Shackelford's website, as well as the odds calculator. And with that said, I will see you in the next one. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. Thanks for watching. Please feel free to leave us a comment here in the comment section for the video, but really better still, join us on Discord. Go to casinogaming.tv and hit the community link in the menu there and join our Discord. That's where me, other YouTubers, and all of our subscribers hang out. We sit there and talk strategy and just BS kind of all day long. It's a great way to get connected and stay connected and kind of interact with the team, learn about meetups and get-togethers and all that kind of stuff. So with all that said, again, thanks for watching. I really appreciate your time. God bless you, and I will see you in the next one.